morning, English learners, and welcome back to English Code Lab, the best place to supercharge your English skills through engaging and insightful podcasts. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss out on our weekly doses of English wisdom. And for our returning viewers, it's fantastic to have you back. Your dedication to mastering English truly inspires us. Today, we're diving deep into a topic that is absolutely crucial for anyone serious about achieving true fluency: how to transform your English input into powerful and impactful output. We all spend countless hours listening to podcasts, watching movies, reading articles, and consuming English content. But how do we bridge the gap between understanding what we hear and read and actually being able to express ourselves confidently and effectively? That's exactly what we'll explore today. We'll break down the process, share actionable strategies, and give you the tools to unlock your full linguistic potential. So grab your notebooks, get ready to learn, and let's unlock fluency together. Understanding input. Let's start with the foundation: input. What exactly do we mean by input in the context of language learning? Simply put, input refers to all the English you absorb through listening and reading. It's the raw material, the fuel that powers your language engine. Think of it like this: you can't build a house without bricks, wood, and cement. Similarly, you can't build fluency without a steady supply of English words, phrases, grammatical structures, and cultural nuances. There are two primary forms of input: listening and reading. Listening input comes from sources like podcasts. Yes, just like the ones you find here at English Code Lab. Movies, TV shows, music, and real-life conversations. Reading input, on the other hand, comes from books, articles, news websites, social media posts, and even product labels. The more diverse your input sources, the richer your understanding of the language will become. You'll encounter different accents, speaking styles, vocabulary, and sentence structures, all of which contribute to a more well-rounded linguistic foundation.
Now, it's not just about what you consume, but how you consume it. The importance of quality input cannot be overstated. When we talk about quality, we're referring to authentic materials, content created by native speakers for native speakers. While simplified materials can be helpful for beginners, true progress comes from engaging with real-world English. This means listening to podcasts on topics you genuinely enjoy, reading articles that pique your interest, and watching movies that you'd watch even if they weren't in English. When you're genuinely interested in the content, your brain is more engaged, and learning becomes a natural byproduct of enjoyment. Furthermore, varied sources are key. Don't limit yourself to just one type of content or one accent. Explore different genres, different speakers, and different writing styles. For example, if you're listening to a podcast about technology, try reading a news article about the same topic. This cross-referencing helps solidify vocabulary and concepts. If you're struggling with a particular accent, seek out content from speakers with that accent. The goal is to expose yourself to as much authentic and varied English as possible. And finally, and this is crucial, distinguish between active and passive consumption. Passive consumption is when you have English playing in the background while you're doing something else. It has some benefits for general exposure, but active consumption is where the real magic happens. Active listening means paying close attention to pronunciation, intonation, and specific vocabulary. It means pausing, rewinding, and looking up words you don't understand. Active reading means engaging with the text, highlighting new words, making notes, and trying to understand the author's intent. It's about being present and intentional with your input, rather than just letting it wash over you. The more actively you engage with your input, the more effectively your brain will process and retain the information, setting the stage for powerful output. 3. Bridging the gap from input to internalization. Visual. Animation showing a bridge forming between input and output concepts, perhaps with gears turning or a light bulb illuminating. Host. So, you're diligently consuming English input. Fantastic! But how do we move from simply understanding what we hear and read to actually internalizing it, making it a part of our active linguistic repertoire? This is where the crucial step of bridging the gap comes in, transforming passive knowledge into active understanding. It's not enough to just hear or read a word, you need to truly comprehend it, process it, and make it your own.
First, let's talk about the role of comprehension. True comprehension goes beyond just understanding the literal meaning of words. It involves grasping the context, the nuances, and even the implied meanings. For instance, if you hear someone say, "It's raining cats and dogs," you understand it means heavy rain, not actual animals falling from the sky. This is where cultural context and idiomatic expressions come into play. When you encounter unfamiliar words or phrases, don't just skip over them. Take a moment to look them up, understand their usage in that specific context, and try to form a mental connection. Tools like online dictionaries, translation apps, and even image searches can be incredibly helpful here. The more you actively seek to understand, the deeper your comprehension becomes. Once you comprehend, the next step is active processing and retention. This is where you actively work with the input to solidify it in your memory and prepare it for output. One highly effective technique is shadowing. This involves listening to a native speaker and repeating what they say almost simultaneously, like an echo. Shadowing helps you mimic pronunciation, intonation, and rhythm, training your mouth and brain to produce English sounds naturally. Start with short phrases, then move to sentences, and eventually paragraphs. You can do this with podcasts, YouTube videos, or even audiobooks. Another powerful strategy is summarizing and paraphrasing. After listening to a podcast or reading an article, try to summarize the main points in your own words, either verbally or in writing. This forces you to process the information, identify key ideas, and articulate them using your existing vocabulary and grammar. Paraphrasing takes it a step further. Try to rephrase specific sentences or paragraphs using different words and sentence structures. This not only reinforces your understanding, but also expands your active vocabulary and improves your grammatical flexibility. Finally, connecting new information to existing knowledge is vital for long-term retention. When you learn a new word or phrase, think about how it relates to words you already know. Can you use it in a sentence about a topic you're familiar with? Can you associate it with an image or a personal experience? The more connections you make, the stronger the neural pathways become, making it easier to recall and use that information when you need it. Remember, your brain loves patterns and connections, so feed it what it craves. By actively engaging in these processing techniques, you're not just consuming English, you're transforming it into a usable, active part of your linguistic toolkit, ready for the next stage, unleashing your output. Unleashing output. Now for the exciting part, unleashing your output. This is where all that rich input and diligent internalization come to fruition. Output refers to the English you produce, whether through speaking or writing. It's the ultimate test of your fluency and the most direct way to engage with the language in a meaningful, communicative way. Speaking output encompasses everything from casual conversations with friends, formal presentations, participating in online discussions, to even practicing self-talk in English.
Writing output includes composing emails, journaling, writing essays, crafting social media posts, or even simply making a to-do list in English. The act of producing language forces your brain to retrieve, organize, and apply all the knowledge you've been accumulating. It highlights gaps in your understanding and areas where you need more practice, creating a powerful feedback loop for further input. However, for many learners, output can be the most daunting aspect. The fear of making mistakes, of sounding awkward, or of not being understood can be paralyzing. This is often compounded by perfectionism, the desire to speak or write flawlessly from the get-go. Let me tell you, perfectionism is the enemy of progress in language learning. Embrace mistakes as learning opportunities. Every stumble, every mispronounced word, every grammatical error is a stepping stone towards fluency. Native speakers make mistakes all the time. It's a natural part of communication. Your goal should be communication, not perfection. So, how do we overcome these barriers and effectively practice output? Let's explore some actionable strategies. 1. Structured practice. This involves setting aside dedicated time for speaking and writing. Language exchange partners are invaluable. Find someone who is learning your native language and wants to practice English, and agree to regular conversation sessions. Online platforms and apps can connect you with partners worldwide. If possible, join English conversation clubs or online classes. These environments provide a safe space to practice, receive feedback, and build confidence. Don't be afraid to initiate conversations, even with yourself. Talk to your reflection in the mirror, describe your day out loud, or narrate your actions as you go about your daily routine. This self-talk, though seemingly simple, is incredibly effective for building fluency and confidence. 2. Unstructured practice. Integrate English into your daily life in organic ways. Think in English. When you're planning your day, commuting, or even just daydreaming, try to do it in English. This trains your brain to process thoughts directly in the target language, reducing the need for constant translation. Change your phone or computer's language settings to English. Start a journal in English, writing about your thoughts, feelings, and experiences. Engage with English-speaking communities online. Comment on YouTube videos, participate in forums, or join relevant social media groups. The more you use English in real-world, low-pressure situations, the more natural it will feel. 3. Focus on communication over perfection. As I mentioned, the primary goal of language is communication. Don't let the fear of making mistakes prevent you from speaking or writing. It's far better to communicate imperfectly than not at all. Your message is more important than flawless grammar in the early stages. As you gain confidence, accuracy will naturally improve. Think of it like learning to ride a bicycle. You'll fall a few times, but each fall teaches you how to balance better. 4. Utilize feedback for improvement. When you do get opportunities for output, actively seek and utilize feedback. If you have a language partner or a teacher, ask them to correct your mistakes. Don't just nod and move on. Try to understand why it was a mistake and how to correct it. If you're writing, use grammar checkers and ask native speakers to review your work. Constructive criticism is a gift that helps you refine your language skills. Remember, feedback isn't a judgment, it's a roadmap to improvement. By consistently engaging in both structured and unstructured output practice, you'll start to see a remarkable transformation. The words and phrases you've absorbed through input will begin to flow more naturally, and your ability to express complex ideas will grow exponentially. This active production of language is what truly solidifies your learning and propels you towards genuine fluency. V. The synergy of input and output. Visual. interlocking gears, or a continuous loop animation, symbolizing the interconnectedness of input and output. Host. We've explored input and output as separate components, but the real magic happens when you understand their synergistic relationship. Think of it as a continuous feedback loop, a dynamic cycle where each element constantly informs and strengthens the other. It's not a linear progression from input to output, but rather a constant dance between consuming and producing, refining and expanding. When you engage in output, whether speaking or writing, you inevitably encounter gaps in your knowledge. You might struggle to find the right word, remember a grammatical structure, or articulate a complex idea. These moments of struggle are incredibly valuable. They highlight precisely what you need to focus on in your next input session. For example, if you find yourself repeatedly using the same basic vocabulary, that's a clear signal to seek out more advanced reading materials or listen to podcasts that introduce richer terminology. If you consistently make a particular grammatical error, it's a cue to review that grammar point and pay extra attention to it in your listening and reading. Conversely, the quality and quantity of your input directly impacts your output. The more authentic and varied English you expose yourself to, the more natural and nuanced your own language production will become. You'll unconsciously pick up on idiomatic expressions, natural phrasing, and appropriate register. It's like a chef who tastes a wide variety of cuisines. Their own cooking becomes more sophisticated and diverse. Your brain is constantly absorbing patterns, and the more patterns it absorbs, the better it becomes at generating its own. This creates a powerful continuous improvement cycle. You consume input, internalize it, then produce output. The challenges you face during output drive you back to more targeted input, which in turn improves your next attempt at output. This iterative process is the engine of fluency. It's why consistent, daily engagement with English, even in small doses, is far more effective than sporadic, intense study sessions. Let me give you a real-world example. Imagine you're listening to a podcast about environmental issues. Input. You learn new vocabulary like sustainable development, carbon footprint, and renewable energy. You actively listen, perhaps even shadow some phrases. Later, you decide to write an email to a friend discussing your concerns about climate change. Output. As you write, you try to incorporate the new vocabulary. You might stumble on how to correctly use carbon footprint in a sentence. This struggle immediately tells you, I need more examples of how this phrase is used. So you go back to your input. Maybe you search for articles using carbon footprint or listen to another podcast on the topic. This targeted input then strengthens your understanding, allowing you to use the phrase more confidently in your next piece of output. This is the feedback loop in action. Another example, you're watching an English movie and notice a character uses a particular sarcastic tone. Input. You try to mimic it when speaking with your language partner. They might tell you it sounded a bit off. This feedback pushes you to listen more carefully to how native speakers convey sarcasm, perhaps even looking up resources on English intonation. This refined input then helps you produce more authentic output. This constant interplay is what transforms raw linguistic data into fluent, natural communication.
By consciously engaging in this synergy, you're not just learning English, you're living it. You're building a dynamic, responsive linguistic system that constantly adapts and improves. Embrace the journey, celebrate every small victory, and trust the process. Your fluency is not a destination, but a continuous evolution driven by the powerful interplay of input and output. So, there you have it, the powerful, interconnected world of English inputs and outputs.
We've covered how crucial quality and varied input are, how to actively internalize what you learn, and most importantly, how to bravely unleash your output, embracing every mistake as a step forward. Remember, fluency isn't about perfection, it's about effective communication and the continuous journey of improvement. By consciously focusing on transforming your English inputs into powerful and impactful outputs, you're not just learning a language, you're building a skill that will open doors to new opportunities, cultures, and connections. Embrace the process, be patient with yourself, and celebrate every milestone along the way. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your fellow English learners, and leave a comment below telling us what your biggest challenge is in transforming inputs into output. We love hearing from you, and your insights help us create even better content. And of course, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to English Code Lab for more insightful lessons, practical tips, and engaging discussions that will help you master the English language. Hit that notification bell so you're always in the loop. Thank you for joining us today, and until next time, keep learning, keep practicing, and keep speaking English with confidence. See you in the next video. Visuals, English Code Lab outro screen with social media handles and subscribe button animation. Upbeat outro music fades in. More examples for Section 2. Understanding input. Host. Let's dive into some more concrete examples of how to find and utilize quality input. For instance, if you're a beginner, you might start with graded readers or simplified news articles. Websites like News in Levels or the British Council's Learn English website offer excellent resources. As you progress, you can move on to more complex materials. If you're interested in technology, instead of just reading a general news article, find a tech blog like TechCrunch or a YouTube channel like Marques Brownlee, MKBHD. This not only exposes you to specialized vocabulary, but also to the natural way native speakers discuss these topics. When it comes to listening, think beyond just podcasts. Audiobooks are a fantastic resource, especially if you can get the text version to read along. This combination of listening and reading is incredibly powerful for reinforcing vocabulary and sentence structures. Also, don't underestimate the power of music. Listening to English songs and looking up the lyrics can be a fun and effective way to learn new expressions and improve your pronunciation. Try to find artists whose lyrics are clear and tell a story. This will make the learning process more engaging and memorable. More examples for Section 4, Unleashing Output. Host. Let's explore some more creative ways to practice your output. For speaking, try the 1-minute topic challenge. Set a timer for 1 minute and speak about any topic that comes to mind. Your favorite movie, your dream vacation, what you had for breakfast. The goal is to speak continuously without pausing to search for the perfect word. This helps build fluency and confidence. You can even record yourself and listen back to identify areas for improvement. For writing, start a blog or a social media account dedicated to your English learning journey. This not only gives you a platform to practice your writing, but also connects you with a community of fellow learners. You can write about your progress, share tips, or even translate short texts from your native language into English. The feedback you receive from the community can be incredibly motivating and helpful. Another great writing exercise is to write product reviews. The next time you buy something, write a review in English. This is a practical way to use descriptive language and express your opinions. Remember, the key is to make output a regular habit. The more you do it, the easier it will become. Don't wait until you feel ready. Start now, start small, and build from there. Your future fluent self will thank you for it.